The fog was so thick that it was preventing his divine sense from spreading too far. The thunder beast let out a roar and charged into the fog. Thunder covered its body as it descended through the fog. The thunder melted large amounts of fog as they descended. Sitting on the thunder beast, Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he slapped his bag of holding. The 7-star sword formation flew out and rapidly rotated to clear the way. With the experience from last time, Wang Lin had a good understanding of planet Yunxia. His speed was not fast and could even be considered slow. Whenever the thunder beast let out a roar and wanted to go faster, Wang Lin would stop it. Although the speed was slow, it was stable. With the 7-star sword formation, they easily cleared the way and came closer to the surface of the planet. Wang Lin calculated the distance it took for him to get through the fog last time, and when there should have been less than 1,000 feet remaining, he suddenly felt a sense of crisis in his heart. The thunder beast detected this danger even earlier. Without waiting for Wang Lin's order, it immediately changed directions and charged out. A slender tentacle appeared like an afterimage and swiped through where Wang Lin just was. It was simply too fast and seemed to only make a tiny hole through the fog. Fortunately, the thunder beast dodged quickly enough. The tentacle that stretched out waved around before immediately withdrawing. However, while it was withdrawing, it wrapped around Wang Lin's 7-star sword formation. It seemed to carry a powerful section force as it pulled the 7-star sword formation down. Wang Lin's expression was gloomy. If he didn't know of the danger and had rushed down, he wouldn't have been able to dodge the tentacle. Fortunately, he wasn't going too fast, so the thunder beast was able to dodge it. The tentacle contained a powerful ability. When it touched the 7-star sword formation, it made it so he couldn't control the swords. This tentacle looks familiar. Wang Lin silently pondered for a bit before his eyes lit up and he recognized the origin of the tentacle. Wang Lin gasped. This thing is shockingly similar to the Moongazer serpent's third form. The Moongazer serpent had 3 forms. The first form was the dormant form with no offensive power. When Wang Lin first came here, that was the state the Moongazer serpent was in. The second form was when all the tentacles were withdrawn, and the Moongazer serpent would change into various shapes. The current Moongazer serpent was in this state. The third form was the assault form. All of the tentacles would be extended, and could extend as long as the Moongazer serpent itself. If one encountered a Moongazer serpent in this form, they must escape or they will be attacked. Thinking about this, Wang Lin's expression became even more gloomy. He looked at the remaining 1,000 feet of fog and began to hesitate. When I came here last time, there were 2 Moongazer serpents here. One was in the first state and the second one was sleeping. Why have they changed now? I don't know which Moongazer serpent that tentacle belonged to. Wang Lin pondered for a moment. If he left now, not only would he have wasted his time gathering the Celestial Ascension fruits, he would also lose the 7-star sword formation. I lost a treasure before I even got close. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and revealed a decisive gaze. He really wasn't willing to leave like this. He patted the thunder beast's head and then it charged through the fog, but it didn't emit any roars. After leaving the fog, his divine sense was no longer obstructed. The scene that appeared before him made him suck in a breath of cold air. The earth was completely different from before. The swaying plants from before had disappeared and were replaced with long tentacles. These tentacles were dark red and gave off a mysterious power. This made Wang Lin's scalp tingle. His divine sense spread out and he carefully scanned the area before letting out a breath of relief. Only 10,000 feet long. That means it is only heading toward the third form but hasn't fully awakened. However, without stimulation, it is impossible for the Moongazer serpent to be like this. Someone must have come here in the last 100 years. Wang Lin frowned. However, even if someone came, it is unlikely for them to have stimulated it into transforming into the third form. This matter is strange. Wang Lin jumped off the thunder beast and pondered. He looked toward the thunder beast and talked as if he was talking to a person. With your abilities, you should be able to detect the dangers here. If you still aren't willing to revert back into the war chariot, it will only increase the danger for both of us. The thunder beast waved its big head and began to ponder. It glanced at the tentacles coming out the ground and revealed a look of disdain. Wang Lin frowned hard and simply decided to ignore it. He moved forward without causing any disturbance. He moved slowly and carefully as he made his way between the tentacles. In his eyes, each of these tentacles contained terrifying attack power. While Wang Lin flew, one of the tentacles before him suddenly lashed toward him. A powerful force rushed toward him. The powerful wind created by this force blew Wang Lin's hair backwards. The wind was like knives as it hit his face. He had been vigilant and was carefully observing these tentacles. When the tentacle attacked, he saw the root of the tentacle change slightly. In almost an instant, Wang Lin teleported away. He was so fast that it created an afterimage. The tentacle hit the afterimage before slowly retracting and returning to normal. Wang Lin's figure appeared in the air. He stared at the tentacles on the ground and his eyebrows knit even tighter. To make the Moongazer serpent fall under the effect of the celestial ascension fruits, they must be used on its sensitive spot. However, doing that will be troublesome with these tentacles. After pondering for a bit, Wang Lin slapped his bag of holding, and a large amount of celestial ascension fruits flew out around him. Wang Lin's eyes lit up, his right hand reached out and he said, "Refine." Sounds of crisp explosions could be heard as the celestial ascension fruits all shattered and turned into red liquid that condensed together. Wang Lin's hand formed a seal as he spat out a mouthful of origin energy that surrounded the liquid. His origin energy turned to flames and then red mist started being refined out of the liquid. Wang Lin's eyes became cold as he grabbed the mist and charged toward the ground. He pushed his hand down and the red mist rushed toward the tentacles. In the blink of an eye, the mist spread more than 1,000 feet wide. The dense, red mist surrounded the tentacles. It was much easier for the tentacles to absorb the fruits in mist form. The dozens of tentacles within the area gradually slowed down their swaying. It was the same as mortals getting drunk. The tentacles' dark red quickly turned into a crimson red. Wang Lin carefully descended and moved between the tentacles. The tentacles seemed to completely ignore him, which let Wang Lin breathe a sigh of relief. Shortly after, he finally landed on the ground. There was a scene in the ancient gods' memories about the Moongazer serpent's sensitive spot. It was the root of the tentacles. Just a small little stimulation there would stimulate the whole body. Wang Lin carefully took out celestial ascension fruits, usually dozens at once, and refined them into a red liquid. After placing restrictions on them, he allowed the red liquid to merge with the root of the tentacles. While he was doing this, he was very cautious. He was very careful and had his divine sense spread out. The redness from the tentacles quickly dissipated, and Wang Lin knew he didn't have much time. After placing the red liquid at the root of the last tentacle, he quickly flew out. Almost at the instant he flew out, the red mist dissipated. The tentacle's color changed from crimson red back to dark red. However, there were bulges on the tentacles that moved down underground. When Wang Lin saw this, he recognized this scene. This was the Moongazer serpent expelling the toxins from its body just like a mortal using the toilet. The Thunder Beast had been looking at Wang Lin from the sky, and it was a bit annoyed. When it looked at the tentacles on the ground, the disdain in its eyes became even stronger. It moved forward and charged directly at the ground. Bolts of thunder shot out from its body, and the rumbling sound transmitted across the entire planet. Wang Lin suddenly turned around and shouted, "Damn beast, quickly come back!" Just at this instant, the ground trembled as if the entire planet had become alive. All of the tentacles stopped swaying and immediately extended toward the Thunder Beast. There were too many tentacles coming from the ground. At first the Thunder Beast was filled with disdain as bolts of thunder transmitted through the tentacles and into the ground. However, in the next instant, a mysterious power came from the tentacles and the tentacles gave off a red light. This red light was blinding, and in an instant the entire planet became red. Those tentacles moved even faster, and in the blink of an eye, they wrapped around the Thunder Beast. No matter how hard the Thunder Beast struggled or released thunder, it had no effect on the tentacles. It couldn't break even one tentacle. Wang Lin was far away, and his expression was extremely gloomy. The Moongazer serpent in the third form was extremely sensitive to sound, so the more the Thunder Beast roared, the tighter the tentacles wrapped around it. The disdain in the Thunder Beast's eyes gradually disappeared and was replaced with fear. Wang Lin sent a voice transmission. "Stop roaring." His face was cold as he took out celestial ascension fruits. At this moment in the core of planet Yunxia, A thin figure was sitting inside a vast cavern. Outside of his body was a huge furnace. Strands of tentacles about as thick as an arm were wrapped around the furnace. The tentacles constantly wiggled as if they were absorbing something. The old man's expression was gloomy when he suddenly opened his eyes, and his expression became even more gloomy. The walls of the cave began to move and large amount of red mist came in. There was also some foul-smelling filth that contained lightning, which made the smell even worse. The old man was greed. If Wang Lin was here, he would immediately recognize this place as the place where the Moongazer serpent absorbed nutrients and expelled waste. Wang Lin slapped his bag of holding and took out a large amount of celestial ascension fruits. He calmly looked at the thunder beast that was struggling against the tentacles but no longer dared to roar. He waved his right hand and all the fruits shattered into juice. After being refined by his origin energy, the juice became red mist. Wang Lin stepped forth with the red mist and appeared next to the trapped thunder beast. He mercilessly pressed down with the red mist. There were some crisp cracking sounds as the mist diffused around the thunder beast. The tentacles grasped loosened slightly and their color started to turn crimson red. Taking advantage of the tentacles weakening, the thunder beast covered itself in thunder. Then its huge body shrank until it turned back into the chariot and finally charged out. Wang Lin's left hand reached out and put the god-slaying war chariot into his bag of holding. It was obvious that the thunder beast was terrified. Originally, it was unwilling to return to the bag, but now it compromised. After putting away the thunder beast, Wang Lin began moving along. He would use the red mist to temporarily weaken the tentacles before sealing drops of juice at their roots. He repeated this again and again. It was lucky that he had much more celestial ascension fruits than he needed, or else he would have run out a long time ago. Wang Lin was very careful along the way and was extremely vigilant. After a few days, he finally infused the juices of the celestial ascension fruits into most of the tentacles on the planet. About 70% to 80% of the tentacles of this Moongazer serpent have the juice of the celestial ascension fruit sealed inside them. As soon as I activate the restrictions, the seals will collapse. Unfortunately, all of the celestial ascension fruits are now gone. If every single tentacle was affected, it would have been perfect. Wang Lin pondered a bit and gave up on the idea of leaving to search for more celestial ascension fruits. This place was too strange, and Wang Lin was afraid there would be new changes the next time he came. Once this Moongazer serpent actually awakened, the celestial ascension fruits would be useless against it. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and his body sank underground. The earth was filled with a viscous liquid, so he had to activate the celestial spiritual energy in his body to force it away. Without pause, Wang Lin carefully charged to the metal vein deep under the earth. However, after descending for a while, Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he carefully looked around. Wang Lin found subtle fluctuations of celestial spiritual energy within the dirt around here. This celestial spiritual energy was trapped inside the viscous liquid. Wang Lin clearly remembered that the liquid was murky and didn't have a trace of celestial spiritual energy last time he was here. It seems someone came here within the last 100 years. They entered deep into the Moongazer serpent and used a powerful spell. This is why there's celestial spiritual energy trapped in the dirt, and why the Moongazer serpent is slowly changing to its third form from its second form. Wang Lin pondered while he sank. After an unknown amount of time, he arrived at where the metal vein was, which was also the bone of the Moongazer serpent. A flame appeared and lit up the darkness around the bone. Wang Lin's eyes started glowing. His goal for coming here was this. He placed his right hand on the bone and was about to absorb it. However, he immediately stopped and began to ponder. To be able to cause the Moongazer serpent to change state means this person's cultivation is shocking. If this kind of person already dead, then it won't be an issue. However, if he is still hiding or is trapped here, then when I take the bone and release the celestial ascension fruits, it is very likely that that person will appear. If this is the case, then it will add a lot of variables. Wang Lin withdrew his right hand. After pondering for a bit, he flew along the bone. He decided to carefully search the area to see if there was any other cultivator around. When Wang Lin needed to be cautious, he was always very cautious. This was especially true for a moment like this, where he could easily die if he was careless. He couldn't afford to not be cautious. Taking the bone from this Moongazer serpent's body can be considered one of the 3 most dangerous moments in my life. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and became even more cautious. Back in the land of ancient God, he relied on wit. In the celestial realm, he relied on caution. At the demon spirit land, he relied on determination. He followed the bone and moved forward. After a long time, Wang Lin suddenly stopped. His eyes shined brightly as he stared at the bone before him. There was a huge fissure on the bone, and there was a dried layer of mucus over it. It was obvious that this was because a very long time had passed. This fissure was very deep, although not enough to cut the bone in half. Wang Lin clearly remembered that this crack didn't exist the last time he was here. After cautiously moving forward, Wang Lin carefully examined it, and his eyes became serious. No wonder the Moongazer serpent is turning into its 3rd form. The pain caused by this kind of injury is enough to completely anger it. The person who injured it obviously doesn't know anything about the Moongazer serpent, or they wouldn't have dared to do this. Wang Lin revealed a sneer, then he moved and went around. However, he suddenly stopped and turned his head to look at the fissure once more. He felt like there was something wrong. After pondering for a bit, he returned to the fissure, and his eyes followed the dried mucus. After a long time, his eyes suddenly shined and his right hand waved at the dried mucus. Celestial spiritual energy immediately appeared, and a celestial wind started blowing. The dried mucus immediately melted, revealing the deep fissure under it. In the depths of the fissure lied a huge mountain. The mucus was blocking the way before, so Wang Lin didn't see it. Also, the mountain had almost completely assimilated with the bone, so there was almost no difference between the two. When Wang Lin moved just a second ago, he found that the celestial spiritual energy here was much denser than everywhere else. The source of the celestial spiritual energy was the fissure. While staring at the mountain that had assimilated with the Moongazer serpent's bone, the light in Wang Lin's eyes disappeared and was replaced with a mysterious light. Greed. Wang Lin revealed a grim expression. Wang Lin had seen this mountain before. This was the treasure Greed took out and extracted the mountain's soul from. They indeed chased after me. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. Now he was no longer anxious to take the Moongazer serpent's bone. I just don't know if they all came, or if only a few people came, or if only Greed came. Wang Lin rubbed his chin as he stared at the mountain. He moved forward and went directly into the fissure. The walls of the bone were uneven and the large amount of metal ore was giving off a red light. It looked very gorgeous. The 7-star sword formation has been taken by the tentacles and I have no idea where it went. However, I can't let go of this mountain. With Greed's status and habits, his treasures can't be simple. Wang Lin's eyes revealed a strange light. He carefully looked around before arriving next to the mountain. The edge of the mountain had already assimilated with the bone, and it was impossible to tell the two apart. One could clearly see that some flame metal had appeared within the mountain. The assimilation is very thorough, so this will be a bit difficult. I can't use the celestial ascension fruits right now. Wang Lin pondered for a bit before forming a sword with his 2 fingers and testing the toughness of the mountain. This mountain was very hard. His finger was filled with celestial spiritual energy but left no mark. His eyes lit up and he transferred some of Ling Tianho's sword energy into his finger. He gave up on getting the entire mountain. Instead, he went around the assimilated part and swung down. A crack silently appeared on the mountain and slowly spread. There was only a soft crackle as the close side of the mountain separated from the Moongazer serpent's bone. The position Wang Lin chose was very ingenious. He completely avoided the assimilated part, so he didn't stimulate the Moongazer serpent. After arriving on the other side, Wang Lin carefully looked at it and waved his fingers once more. This time he was even more careful, because this side of the mountain had assimilated even more than the other side. Wang Lin's 2 fingers carefully moved around the mountain and slowly avoided the assimilated part. Just as he was about to completely remove the mountain, Wang Lin suddenly felt coldness from behind him that made his scalp tingle. He didn't even dare to spread out his divine sense. Under this cold aura, it was as if he had his eyes closed and there was a sword pointed between his eyebrows. At this moment, this feeling appeared along with the chill on his back. This feeling continued and became even clearer. Wang Lin's eyes became cold as his right hand grabbed the mountain that had been extracted. He immediately charged up and his left hand pointed behind him. The stop spell. All of this happened in an instant. There was no hesitation at all. As Wang Lin moved, a roar came from behind him. Wang Lin quickly flew out after grabbing the mountain. He immediately put the mountain inside his bag and charged into the earth. Without any hesitation, he used an escape spell he learned from the old man. Roars echoed behind his body, and when he flew out, his divine sense spread out. To his horror, he saw the small Moongazer serpent with 100 feet of its body outside the dirt with the rest still hidden in the earth. This small Moongazer serpent was surrounded by the stop spell, which gave Wang Lin the perfect chance to escape. After Wang Lin had disappeared, the small Moongazer serpent regained control, but its eyes were bloodshot. It let out a roar before disappearing back into the earth. Wang Lin was moving very fast through the earth and was already far away. This made him even more aware of how dangerous this place was. How many Moongazer serpents are here? Wang Lin's expression was gloomy. What terrified him the most was that the Moongazer serpent's appearance was extremely strange. He wasn't aware of it closing in at all. It had been a long time since something like this had happened to him. That Moongazer serpent is in its third form. That damn greed, just what exactly did he do? If all he did was stab the mountain into the Moongazer serpent's bone, it definitely wouldn't be like this. Wang Lin suddenly stopped while escaping. He seemed to have thought of something, and his expression became even more gloomy. Could it be? In the memories of 2C, there was something inside the Moongazer serpent called the Moonflower. It was extremely poisonous, and nothing beside the blood of an ancient god could cure it. The value of this item would come into effect when the Moongazer serpent died. It would cause the entire Moongazer serpent to expand like a balloon until it exploded. This would kill everything in the star system except ancient gods. The larger the Moongazer serpent, the stronger the explosion. This was why there were no remains of dead Moongazer serpents. This Moonflower was what the Moongazer serpents cared the most about. If anything endangered the Moonflower, it would enrage the Moongazer serpent to wipe out all dangers. I once heard that this greed doesn't go anywhere if there aren't treasures to be found. Could he have mistaken the Moonflower for a treasure? Wang Lin's expression was gloomy. In the memories of ancient god 2C, the Moonflower couldn't be taken out. If it was taken out, then it would immediately explode. If this is true, then an explosion from a Moongazer serpent of this size could wipe out more than half of the northern domain. Wang Lin's scalp tingled. If no one provoked the Moongazer serpent, even after countless years, it wouldn't die. It would just remain in its second form until it naturally died. Even then it would take a very long time. Even if someone came with how strong the Moongazer serpent was, it would be impossible for anyone to take the Moonflower. That person would just be giving up their life. If this is greed looking for death, it has nothing to do with me. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he continued to search. Time slowly passed. Wang Lin had searched almost every part of the Moongazer serpent aside from some inaccessible places. During this time he didn't encounter any more Moongazer serpents. If he wasn't killed by the Moongazer serpent, then he was swallowed by it. Everything that the Moongazer serpent swallows gathers at the point where absorption and excretion happens. I need to check that place. Wang Lin moved quickly toward that location. The Moongazer serpent has its own circulation system. Its excretion didn't get expelled to the outside world. It was instead absorbed again by the body for nutrients. Several days later, Wang Lin carefully arrived at the absorption and excretion location of the Moongazer serpent. There was a foul stench coming from the soil around here. Wang Lin frowned. He didn't go in far but circled around the edge. Just as his divine sense spread out, he suddenly heard a faint divine sense message coming from inside. Is there a fellow cultivator outside? Save me, and there will be great rewards. Wang Lin's eyes narrowed. He was very familiar with this voice. It was greed. Fellow cultivator, save me. I have a lot of treasures. If fellow cultivator saves me, I'll give you all of them. In the Moongazer serpent's absorption and excretion spot, Greed's body was very thin. He had lost a lot of his flesh, blood essence, and celestial spiritual energy to counter the absorption force here over the last 100 years. If it wasn't for the furnace, he would have already turned into nothing. Back then he sensed that there was a powerful treasure hidden here. He only had this strong of a feeling back when he got this mysterious furnace. He was tempted by this and entered this place. Planet Yunxia was very calm, and he successfully entered deep into the place toward the treasure he was sensing. The treasure he had his eyes on was the Moongazer serpent's moonflower. Along the way he saw the metal vein, and after hesitating for a bit, he stabbed the celestial mountain into it. He was very greedy and wanted to pry off large sections at a time. Unfortunately, this great pain caused the Moongazer serpent to awaken. If it wasn't for him taking out the furnace quickly enough, he would have already been killed. This shocked him greatly, and greed hit himself for several years until the Moongazer serpent calmed down. He no longer dared to even think about the metal vein and rushed toward where he sensed the treasure. Back then he already noticed that there was something wrong with this place. He intended to only take a look. If it was easy to take, he would take it, and if not, then he would immediately leave. With his life of seeking treasures, he successfully arrived at where the moonflower was. Greed only took one look before he sucked in a breath of cold air and his eyes shined with greed. He didn't know what the moonflower was, but he could clearly feel a powerful destructive force inside. He felt that even Ling Tianhe would be destroyed by this force. Due to his greed gave up on leaving and was ready to take this treasure. However, the moment he touched it, it seemed as if the entire planet truly awakened. At that moment, the Moongazer serpent began to transform into its third form. Greed was only able to split a bit of his divine sense into the moonflower before a large mouth swallowed him. Then he appeared in this place. He had analyzed this strange place. This planet was a very large beast. Terrified by this, he gave up on the treasure and was ready to flee. He relied on the power of the furnace to switch places many times to escape. However, each time he tried, he would be caught, swallowed, and thrown back into this place. Moreover, after the last time, these tentacles wrapped around the furnace as if they were absorbing its power and made the furnace lose its effect. With Greed's intelligence, he had naturally deducted that this was the beast's absorption and excretion area. He just didn't understand why the beast hadn't killed him and kept bringing him here. This was the first time in 100 years that he felt someone outside. The excitement he felt was indescribable. "Fellow cultivator, save me. This old man swears there will be great rewards." Greed kept sending out divine sense messages. Wang Lin still hadn't said a word. Instead, he turned around to leave. Wang Lin knew that with his current cultivation level, it would be easy to enter, but it would be impossible to leave. After finding out that Greed had been trapped here and that no one had come to rescue him, Wang Lin was able to deduce that Greed was the only person who came from the Alliance star system. After understanding this, Wang Lin no longer had anything to worry about. If he were to waste time talking with Greed, then he wouldn't be Wang Lin. He turned around and left without any hesitation. He was not tempted by the treasures Greed talked about at all. Those that he should get, he would naturally get them, and those that he shouldn't get, he wouldn't be greedy over them. Otherwise, it would be the same as wasting his 900+ years of cultivation. This was why Wang Lin gave up the last time he came here until he gathered enough celestial ascension fruits. He moved like the wind through the dirt. After an unknown amount of time, he arrived back at where the crack in the bone was. He carefully observed for a long time before determining that there was no other Moongazer serpent around. Wang Lin sat down in the lotus position and let out a breath of foul air. He didn't move after he sat down, and the celestial guard came out and carefully observed its surroundings. After the danger he encountered last time, Wang Lin didn't dare to risk it. His hand formed a seal, and the seal he placed in the countless tentacles sealing the celestial ascension fruit liquid collapsed. If one looked from above, they would see that a majority of the countless tentacles covering planet Yunxia suddenly trembled. Bright red light came from the root of these tentacles. Without the seals, the celestial ascension fruit liquid was instantly released. If only one portion of celestial ascension fruit liquid was absorbed by the Moongazer serpent, it was like a drop into the ocean. Like a mosquito bite, it wasn't painful or itchy. If there was time between each dose, it wouldn't be a big deal either. After all, the Moongazer serpent's body had its own way of detoxing. However, at this moment, a majority of the tentacles were absorbing the liquid at once. As a result, it was as strong as a storm. At this moment, most of the tentacles stopped swaying and began to tremble. The power of the celestial ascension fruit suddenly spread out. The mysterious force of the large quantity of celestial ascension fruit liquid entered the Moongazer serpent's body from its roots. This was the same as 100 streams form a creek, 1,000 creeks form a river, 10,000 river forms a ocean. The mysterious force of the celestial ascension fruit seemed to form an ocean, and it diffused across the Moongazer serpent's body. The ground trembled greatly and a very excited aura came from the earth. All of the tentacles seemed to have lost their aggression and began to drunkenly sway around. If Wang Lin's cultivation was insufficient or he didn't have the experience of the scattered devil pulling the planet's soul, then he would only have felt the earth tremble and not feel the sense of excitement coming from the Moongazer serpent's soul. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. Without any hesitation, his arms spread out and touched both sides of the split bone. It was as if he was linking them with his own body. The third ability of the Underworld River, Power of the Underworld. Wang Lin's Underworld River appeared. It split into two parts along his arms and charged out like two fierce dragons. It moved very fast along the bone and covered it. Wang Lin shouted, "Bone extraction!" A powerful suction came from the Underworld River. This third ability came from the Tide Abyss in the Demon Spirit Land. This power was gained from an enlightenment Wang Lin had when he experienced the invisible force created by the intersection of two star systems. Its power would grow indefinitely along with his Tao. At this moment, he used it with his late-stage ascendant cultivation, and it was enough to cause the entire planet to tremble. Even the fog around the planet was affected. Waves of muffled roars that gave off an ancient feeling came from the earth and spread very far. In planet Yunxia, Wang Lin was sitting in the lotus position and his eyes were shining. The power of the Underworld River was covering both sections of the bone. At this moment, the two sections of bone were moving as if they were alive. Following a burst of golden light, the trembling became more violent. It wasn't only one part, but the entire bone was trembling. It was as if a big hand was holding someone's spine and shaking it violently, thus causing their whole body to tremble. The Moongazer serpent was like this right now. The entire planet began to tremble violently. The area around Wang Lin was shaking violently, but his body seemed to be rooted in place and remained motionless. Great pain spread across this giant Moongazer serpent, but due to the large amount of celestial ascension fruits, the pain was dulled greatly. Also, through some strange means, this pain was converted into an intense sense of excitement. Bursts of red mist came out of the countless tentacles covering the planet. The tentacles trembled violently and muffled roars seemed to come from the planet. All of the tentacles on the surface extended like crazy, and their lengths increased several-fold from their original 1,000 feet. If one looked at planet Yunxia from space, it would look like a giant sea urchin. Deep inside planet Yunxia, Wang Lin's eyes shined even more. Endless suction force came from his arms and spread across the two sections of the bone. The suction force was like a knife separating the bone from the Moongazer serpent's body. During this process, this giant Moongazer serpent shook even more violently. Countless cracks appeared on the surface of the planet, and the tentacles extended even farther. At the same time, a large amount of dirt fell off the Moongazer serpent. If one saw this from the sky, they would see a large amount of dirt floating off the planet and into space. However, if one looked from space, they would see countless landmasses coming off from planet Yunxia and slowly floating away. It was like an egg with its shell rapidly cracking and falling off. An ancient aura slowly came from inside the planet as the dirt flew off. It was as if a fierce beast that had been sleeping for countless years was gradually awakening. The vibration became more and more intense, and more red mist started coming from the tentacles. The mixture of the red mist and the fog outside seemed to form a dense cocoon. In planet Yunxia, Wang Lin's eyes shined even brighter. The earth trembled even more violently before, and a thick sense of crisis came at him from all directions. Wang Lin suddenly stood up and moved as fast as light. Right now his eyes contained the might of thunder. He instantly arrived on the left section of the bone. Both of his hands grabbed onto the bone and he shouted, "Rise!" This roar was like a rumbling thunder that spat out all of Wang Lin's energy in exchange for great power. Countless veins on his arms bulged, and there were even flashes of runes that appeared from the cycling of his celestial spiritual energy. Both of his hands were gripping the left section of the bone tightly. His eyes revealed a trace of madness, But deep within this madness there was an extraordinary sense of calmness. "Rise for me!" Wang Lin shouted again, and he pulled with his hands again. The earth shook even more violently and painful roars came through the earth. However, due to the power of the celestial ascension fruits, the giant Moongazer serpent wasn't able to determine what this feeling was. The earth shook even more violently, and Wang Lin's body tensed up and he pulled once more. He managed to make this half of the bone move 3 inches. As long as it could be moved, even 1 inch was important. Wang Lin activated all of the celestial spiritual energy in his body without hesitation and pulled on the bone. Endless rumbles came from the earth as the bone that was countless kilometers long was slowly dragged out by Wang Lin. 7 inches, 10 inches, 3 feet, 6 feet, 10 feet, 100 feet. The sound of friction was enough to shake one's soul. Wang Lin began to pull this half of the bone faster and faster. Wang Lin's face was ferocious, and the celestial spiritual energy in his body was surging like crazy. If he hadn't reached the late stage of ascendant, his body might not have been able to bear using celestial spiritual energy like this. Every time the celestial spiritual energy cycled once, Wang Lin's strength would increase greatly. Time was of the essence, and the danger increased 1-fold every second he spent here. Wang Lin's eyes were blood red as he let out another roar. His strength reached its peak. There was a loud rumble as Wang Lin rushed toward the surface with this section of the bone. The celestial guard immediately passed by Wang Lin and charged toward the other section of bone. In comparison, the celestial guard that was at the illusory XIAN stage and cultivated a method similar to the ancient gods was much stronger than Wang Lin. It arrived next to the bone in a flash and grabbed it with both hands. When the celestial guard pulled the other section of the bone, the earth trembled even more violently. The rumbling sounded like countless bolts of thunder descending. As the celestial guard held the bone, its body glowed gold with a hint of red. It dragged the bone and followed closely after Wang Lin. Wang Lin and the celestial guard dragged one section of the bone each as they quickly broke through all the earth before them and headed toward the surface. Their speed was too fast, as Wang Lin was using all his speed without any hesitation. At first he wasn't fast, but once he gained momentum, he became faster and faster. The earth trembled and the Moongazer serpent roared even louder. The tentacles released more red mist, and under the stimulation of this intense pain, the Moongazer serpent rapidly transformed into its third form. However, thanks to the celestial ascension fruits, the transformation process became a lot slower, and the Moongazer serpent was unable to tell where the intense pain was coming from. After all, its body was too big. Also, it was only gradually awakening, so it was still in a drowsy state. This allowed the celestial ascension fruits to be even more effective. As the earth rumbled, Wang Lin charged out. The moment he charged out, the madness in his eyes was even more intense. He mercilessly pulled the bone out from underground. The loud sound made the earth tremble even more, and the sound of the bone grinding against the earth was enough to give people headaches. This half section of bone was simply too big and stretched for endless kilometers like a mountain range. From a distance, it looked like a giant golden fire dragon. This object was too big to be put into the bag of holding, so Wang Lin had to drag the bone as he charged toward the sky. His figure was too insignificant compared to this giant bone. If one didn't look closely, they wouldn't even see him. Just at this moment, the earth rumbled once more and the celestial guard charged out. It was carrying the other half of the bone and followed closely after Wang Lin. Charge! Wang Lin's eyes were bloodshot, and the cycle of celestial spiritual energy in his body was already beyond his limit. Some of the celestial spiritual energy was leaking out of his body, causing him massive pain. However, compared to being able to obtain the Moongazer serpent's bone, this pain was worth it. Wang Lin knew that he had to leave quickly, because if he was a bit slower, everything would be ruined and he could even lose his life here. He didn't believe the Moongazer serpent would have any thoughts of letting the creature that took its bone escape. Once he was devoured, he would without a doubt die. Although the tentacles wanted to wrap around them, due to the effect of the celestial ascension fruits, their movements were slower. However, the bone was simply too big, so even though the tentacles were slower, many of them still wrapped around the bone. Wang Lin slapped his bag of holding without any hesitation and took out the restriction flag. His eyes revealed a sign of heartbreak, but this was not the time to worry about it. He formed a seal and pointed at the restriction flag. This flag suddenly trembled and seemed to let out a sad cry. After all, it had been with Wang Lin for many years, and more than 900 years of refining it had caused a hint of intelligence to form. The sad cry revealed a trace of decisiveness. The restriction flag collapsed, and the countless restrictions fused together into a black meteor. There seemed to be a flame burning inside it as it crashed down on the tentacles wrapped around the bone. The self-destruction of the restriction flag was exchanged for a powerful force. At this moment, a huge restriction appeared, and this restriction contained a spirit. This spirit was formed due to Wang Lin, and it also extinguished for Wang Lin. Because this huge restriction carried a spirit, it released endless power. When it fell on the tentacles, it caused them to instantly slow down. The Moongazer serpent was simply too powerful. Even the self-destruction of the restriction flag couldn't cut off the tentacles. It could only delay the tentacles for a moment. Wang Lin secretly sighed, but he mercilessly pulled without any hesitation. The entangled bone was pulled up and Wang Lin charged toward the fog in the sky while carrying the bone. As for the section of bone carried by the celestial guard, it was also entangled. However, with the destruction of the restriction flag, it was also pulled free, and the guard rushed after Wang Lin. As long as they could pass through this layer of fog, they would be in endless space. However, just at this moment, the trembling in the earth reached a peak and a huge gap appeared. It was like a huge mouth, and a roar that shook the heavens and earth came out from this huge mouth. Wang Lin's body trembled and all the celestial spiritual energy in his body collapsed. His face filled with pain and he coughed out a mouthful of blood. Even the celestial guard's body trembled, and the golden light around its body dissipated a bit. Wang Lin clenched his teeth. He ignored the aura of the giant mouth as he charged out once more toward the dense fog. However, the crack on the ground rose like crazy. At this moment, the earth began to constantly rise and entire planet began to rumble. Large amounts of land collapsed and flew off into space. This scene was almost exactly the same as when the original body caused a planet to collapse. However, that planet collapse formed the inside, and the explosion was extremely powerful. If low-level cultivators were too close, they would have no chance of surviving. However, planet Yunxia was slightly different. Although it was also collapsing, there was no destructive force. It was more the Moongazer serpent waking up and shaking off the debris that had gathered on its body over the years. The constantly rising earth was only an illusion, as the so-called earth was merely the Moongazer serpent's body. The rise of the earth was just the Moongazer serpent turning around and raising its head. The giant crack instantly closed in, and its speed was unimaginable. Wang Lin's eyes became cold. The power of the celestial ascension fruits was still there, or else there would be no way for him to escape. As long as he could stop the Moongazer serpent for a moment, he could charge through the fog and enter space. Wang Lin clenched his teeth and was about to slap his bag of holding when his eyes suddenly narrowed. At this moment, he felt a fluctuation he was very familiar with as the huge mouth approached him. That was the fluctuation from the 7-star sword formation. He withdrew his right hand from the bag and formed a seal. He then pointed forward and shouted, "Sword formation, spin!" His voice carried power as it charged out like a bolt of thunder toward the 7-star sword formation inside the huge mouth. The 7-star sword formation rapidly spun and gave off endless sword energy as it attacked like crazy from the inside. However, these attacks were really insignificant to the Moongazer serpent and weren't able to stop it for even half a second. Seeing the mouth coming closer and closer, Wang Lin's eyes shined brightly and he shouted, "Rat sword, explode!" A muffled sound came from the mouth and then a roar came from inside. The mouth moved even faster and was within 1,000 feet of Wang Lin. Wang Lin's speed was very fast, and he and the Celestial Guard had now entered the dense fog. However, this dense fog rapidly dissipated as the mouth closed in. It disappeared without a trance in the blink of an eye. After countless years, this was the first time the dense fog around the serpent had disappeared. Pig, sheep, monkey, ox, tiger and hare all explode. Wang Lin's eyes were filled with madness. Rumble, 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 rumble. Countless explosions echoed within the Moongazer serpent. Not only did the swords explode, the evil spirits that reside within them also exploded. At this moment, a powerful destructive force formed as the 7-star sword formation launched its most powerful attack at the Moongazer serpent. However, the Moongazer serpent was so strong that the explosion of the 7-star sword formation had no effect on it. It merely slowed it for a moment due to the impact of the explosion. However, what Wang Lin wanted was for it to slow down. He and the Celestial Guard quickly charged out. The stars were right before their eyes. The huge mouth quickly recovered. The power of the Celestial Ascension fruits still made it unsure where this powerful sense of pain and excitement was coming from. However, in its confused state after awakening, it felt the two creatures that were trying to escape were carrying something familiar. It subconsciously chased to try to keep those two familiar things here. When it saw the other two move even faster and faster, it let out a sound that hadn't been heard in countless years. Although this sound had no practical meaning, it was extremely strange. The moment this sound appeared, Wang Lin's scalp immediately went numb. This was the language of the ancient god. Wang Lin gasped. The memories from 2C don't show that Moongazer serpents can speak the language of the ancient gods. What kind of Moongazer serpent is this? The moment the words of the ancient gods echoed, the sky changed. Wang Lin suddenly had a feeling that the thing chasing him was no longer a Moongazer serpent, but an adult ancient god. The ancient god's language echoed, and it was very ancient. However, what it brought Wang Lin was the sense that a life and death crisis was about to happen. Cracks appeared in the space around this area as if it was about to collapse. This made Wang Lin almost lose his wit. He knew this spell. This was a shattering spell that only an 8-star ancient god could use. It could shatter everything in sight and cause everything in its range to collapse into dust. The sense of life and death he was feeling had never been so strong. Wang Lin turned around and let out a loud yet strange roar. What he spoke was also the language of the ancient gods, which he inherited from 2C. The earth suddenly paused and the huge mouth closed slightly. At the same time, 2 more cracks appeared, revealing a pair of cold eyes. This gaze fell on Wang Lin, and it revealed a trace of coldness and confusion. Due to the Moongazer serpent being interrupted, the collapse of the space around them stopped. Wang Lin fled without hesitation and the Celestial Guard never stopped. Just at this moment, a thin figure charged out from the depths of the crack with a sense of fear and excitement. He was Greed. The huge change to the Moongazer serpent caused the absorption and excretion location in the Moongazer serpent to change violently, resulting in an opening. Greed used this opening to escape, and of course he wouldn't leave behind the huge furnace. After charging out of that place, Greed noticed how terrifying the Moongazer serpent was. He didn't hesitate to use the huge furnace to help him fly up. When he looked, he saw the giant crack and even the stars outside of it. Excitement that hadn't appeared in 100 years surged through his body. He even felt tears appear in his eyes. These days of living not like a human or a ghost was finally about to end. He recalled the past 100 years. He had spent almost all that time in the beast's excretion location. To him, this was a disgrace. In particular, that foul stench was something he could never forget. Even though the stench was gone, he felt like he could still smell it. Greed vowed that once he escaped, he would never take half a step into the northern domain of the All-Heaven star system. In the future, when he goes treasure hunting again, he must be careful, and more careful. Seeing the crack come closer and closer, Greed's excitement had reached its peak. Old man Greed is finally going to be free. At this moment, the confusion in the Moongazer serpent's eyes suddenly disappeared, and the ancient god's language echoed once more. Wang Lin's entire body felt cold. In this moment of life and death, he couldn't hesitate anymore. He sent out a command that caused the Celestial Guard to slow down and throw the half of the bone it was carrying down at the Moongazer serpent. "I'll give you back half." Half of the bone was like a huge mountain, so it created a harsh, whistling sound as it fell down through the atmosphere. This caused the huge mouth to pause once more. The collapse of the surrounding space stopped once more. The Moongazer serpent stared at the rapidly falling mountain, and its eyes revealed confusion once more. This thing was very familiar, but it couldn't remember what it was. However, it subconsciously opened its mouth and swallowed the mountain range. Greed's excitement was so strong that it seemed like he had devoured countless celestial ascension fruits. He was moving very fast as he got closer and closer to the crack. He even wanted to roar loudly. The almost 100 years of misery was finally about to end. He couldn't teleport inside the Moongazer serpent. He already knew this. The moment he tried to teleport, he would be obstructed by a strange force, which would cause his speed to become even slower. However, just at this moment when Greed was very close to the crack, a giant shadow suddenly eclipsed over the crack. Greed was startled and he rubbed his eyes. He even suspected that he was hallucinating. What was this giant shadow? After being covered in the stench inside the Moongazer serpent for so long, even Greed's mind was a bit dull. This is a mountain. Greed's eyes revealed despair and his excitement instantly dissipated. Anyone else who suddenly felt these powerful contradicting feelings would feel like they were about to collapse. However, Greed was a powerful cultivator. He let out a roar as he charged forward and entered his furnace. Then the furnace smashed toward the side. The mountain whisked by and the edge of the mountain rubbed against the furnace, causing a series of sparks. The vibrations caused Greed, who was inside, to keep coughing up blood. Damn! After barely avoiding the mountain, Greed appeared from the furnace completely pale. He didn't have full control of the furnace, so if he was inside it for too long, he would be refined by the terrifying aura within it. After swallowing half the mountain, the confusion in the Moongazer serpent became even stronger. This feeling was very familiar, it was about to remember. Borrowing the moment of hesitation from the Moongazer serpent, Wang Lin commanded the Celestial Guard to help carry the bone. Both of them quickly fled toward the stars. The confusion in the Moongazer serpent gradually dissipated and the power of the celestial ascension fruits was about to disappear. It now remembered that this mountain wasn't any ordinary thing. It was formed from its own bones. As the celestial ascension fruits effect disappeared, the Moongazer serpent was able to detect the location of the pain. It was from where its bone should have been. A storm suddenly appeared. After the celestial ascension fruits effect disappeared, the pain that was hidden by the fruits revealed itself. This caused the Moongazer serpent's rage to completely explode. In the memories of ancient god 2C, there was one line he used to describe the Moongazer serpents. If the heavens have a spirit, then the ancient god has a Moongazer. The spirit can be considered a soul. In short, the first half of the sentence states that the heavens is alive. It has its own existence or a sense of spirit that normal creatures can't detect. The second half is referring to the Moongazer serpent. Even ancient god 2C didn't know how the Moongazer serpents came to be. It seemed to have already existed for a very long time. It was like the heavens and its spirit. Both were elusive things that no one could explain. The Moongazer's wrath, the finger of an ancient god. This was the second description of the Moongazer serpent in ancient god 2C's memories, and it was the one Wang Lin had the most profound impression of. Reading between the lines, it means that once a Moongazer serpent is angry and reaches its third form, it has the power of a finger of an ancient god. This power varies, but the finger of a 9-star ancient god is enough to collapse a cultivation planet. If it was an 1-star ancient god, it would be laughed at by a disciple. However, the giant Moongazer serpent before Wang Lin was not a joke. Wang Lin's whole body gave off a cold light when his and the Celestial Guard speeds reached a limit as they carried the bone and escaped. He had tried to absorb it with the heaven-defying bead, but for some reason, it was very slow and couldn't be finished in a short period of time. At this moment, a loud rumble violently echoed across planet Yunxia. This sound was so loud that it would be an understatement to call it thunder. This angry roar echoed across the stars and could be heard far away. Wang Lin's eyelid twitched. He didn't turn around and quickly escaped. The Moongazer serpent wouldn't die if it lost its bone. It only needed time to grow another one. However, this bone was grown after countless years, so it was no wonder the Moongazer serpent was so angry. The Moongazer serpent's large body slowly stretched from its round shape from before. This caused the earth to tremble even more, and the land collapsed once more. This time the collapse was even more thorough. Countless large tentacles constantly extended and swayed around, and an unimaginable aura gradually spread out from its body. Greed's body came out from the huge furnace. However, it was a really bad time to come out because it was when the Moongazer serpent was releasing its anger. When Greed looked at the not far away crack, his eyes turned red. He let out a roar and accelerated like crazy. He wanted to rush out. However, just at this moment the crack slowly closed. Greed's eyes shed blood tears and he let out a miserable scream. No! The Moongazer serpent closed its mouth, and its huge body was filled with power. However, its actions were still slow, and it still didn't have full control of itself. However, as the remaining celestial ascension fruit mist was purged from its system, it was gradually regaining control. Wang Lin carried the Moongazer serpent's bone with the celestial guard behind him. The moment they entered space, he slapped his bag of holding and the star compass appeared. He turned into a ray of silver light and flew off into the distance without turning back. The Moongazer serpent's cold gaze stared at the faraway Wang Lin. The huge tentacles on its body moved slightly and a powerful storm suddenly appeared. This storm was so powerful that it created a series of sonic booms. A powerful shockwave spread out in all directions. Then the Moongazer serpent moved. One almost couldn't tell it had moved, but its distance from Wang Lin was closed in an instant. At the same time, the Moongazer serpent opened its mouth and spoke the language of the ancient gods. Wang Lin's scalp felt numb when he saw hundreds of smaller Moongazer serpents charge out from its mouth. Greed was also inside its mouth. When he saw the stars, his excitement ignited once more. This feeling was too good, as it had been too long since he'd seen the stars. He was so excited that he couldn't speak. But he knew that he hadn't truly escaped. He instantly saw the star compass far away and recognized Wang Lin. Greed was suddenly enlightened and his eyes revealed hatred. However, he didn't dare to act carelessly. There were too many of these 1,000-feet-long fierce beasts around him, and he feared that his movements would attract them to him. Wang Lin sucked in a breath of cold air. Without any hesitation, he touched his bag of holding and took out the celestial wine. He clenched his teeth and drank a mouthful, leaving only 2 drops. In an instant, endless celestial spiritual energy exploded in his body. This celestial energy was dense and rich. After all, this was something that belonged to a true celestial. Enduring the powerful pain and sense of passing out, Wang Lin raised his right hand. He mercilessly pointed at those Moongazer serpents and shouted, "Stop!" The celestial spiritual energy that was about to explode from his body suddenly surged out from his finger. It turned into an infinite force that surrounded the heavens and earth. One word seemed to have stopped the heavens and earth from moving. Normally, Wang Lin wouldn't be able to do this. He was relying on the celestial wine. Without the celestial wine, it was impossible for him to use the stop spell to this degree. Borrowing this moment, Wang Lin charged out without any hesitation. He moved very quickly and used those escape spells he learned from the old man from the demon spirit land. Wang Lin had stopped the small Moongazer serpents, but the stop spell had no effect on the large Moongazer serpent that formed planet Yunxia. It rushed out and the fierce impact it caused allowed the smaller Moongazer serpents to regain their freedom. However, Greed's luck was really bad. He was also stopped and recovered slightly slower. As the Moongazer serpent charged out, he fell into its mouth once more. Greed felt his vision go black, and at the next moment he found he was actually back inside the crack once more. Feeling desperate, Greed's eyes revealed madness. He bit the tip of his tongue and spat out a large mouth of blood onto the huge furnace. The furnace gave off an ancient aura and a ripple spread out. Greed's eyes flashed and he immediately changed positions with the fastest small Moongazer serpent. His expression was extremely pale as he coughed out another mouthful of blood. He then pointed at Wang Lin and shouted, "Wang Lin, don't you dare leave." Wang Lin had long noticed Greed. He didn't even turn his head as he pointed behind himself and the storm-like celestial spiritual energy in his body surged out. "Stop!" Greed was about to use the furnace's ability once more to switch himself and Wang Lin. However, the stop spell descended and his body froze. The Moongazer serpent's gaze suddenly fell on Greed, and its eyes shined brightly. It sensed an aura that made it feel very comfortable coming from the huge furnace. Back then, when the Moongazer serpent hadn't awakened, the reason it didn't kill Greed was because of this furnace. However, it wasn't awake back then, so it subconsciously sent Greed and the furnace toward its excretion spot. Although that was the Moongazer serpent's excretion spot, it was also where the Moongazer serpent absorbed things. It subconsciously wanted to absorb the furnace, and this led to Greed's 100 years of suffering. At the moment Greed's body was frozen, the Moongazer serpent quickly charged forth. Wang Lin's eyes revealed a strange light. He used this change to widen the distance once more. Greed only felt his vision go black. When he regained his senses, He had been swallowed once more and was at the edge of the crack. This constant rise and fall made Greed's face extremely bitter, and it made his hatred for Wang Lin even stronger. It was all because of you. Greed mercilessly clenched his teeth. Then his hand formed a seal and he pressed on the furnace. A milky white light came out from his head and imprinted on the furnace. Greed roared. Even if I have to sacrifice my life force, I'll still escape from this place. The furnace absorbed Greed's life force and immediately grew larger. In the blink of an eye it started growing. An ancient aura constantly spread out as the furnace grew larger. The Moongazer serpent let out roar. As the roar echoed, Wang Lin coughed out another mouthful of blood. He had already been seriously injured. As for the celestial guard, it also shook violently, and the golden light around it collapsed. Even the light in its eyes had turned bleak, but compared to Wang Lin, its injuries were rather light. As the furnace expanded, Wang Lin decisively rushed out. The mouth of the Moongazer serpent was being propped open by the expanding furnace. This old man doesn't want this furnace. Greed's heart ached as he turned around and was going to dash away. However, just at this moment, the Moongazer serpent spat out the giant furnace and its eyes revealed a mysterious light. Countless tentacles immediately extended and wrapped around the huge furnace. Other tentacles quickly rushed toward the closest target, Greed. Greed's expression was gloomy. He slapped his bag of holding and a screen suddenly appeared. His hand formed a seal and the force of mountain and river immediately appeared among the stars. While Wang Lin was escaping, his divine sense even had the hallucination that he was no longer among the stars but instead before the majestic mountains and river. Mountain and river painting. Wang Lin's star compass slowed down and his eyes showed Greed as he looked at the screen. Wang Lin remembered Greed saying that he didn't find the mountain and river painting but found a screen with its projection. The Moongazer serpent's eyes were still cold, and a strange rune appeared in its eyes. Wang Lin recognized this rune. It was the language of the ancient gods. As the rune flashed, a 1,000 feet long finger appeared before the Moongazer serpent. This was only a finger, and its skin was extremely rough. However, it had a faint aura that was intoxicating. Although this finger was only an illusion, in Wang Lin's eyes, it was unimaginably real. The Moongazer's wrath, the finger of an ancient god. Wang Lin's breathing was rough and his forehead was covered in sweat. His heart started pounding wildly. He finally knew the meaning of these words. All of Greed's hair stood up. He didn't feel this close to death even when he was caught by the celestial couple Wang Wei and Hu Wan. That illusion finger seemed to be formed from the heavenly Tao. Felt like it was one with the heavens. This wasn't a simply Tao a cultivator could comprehend. In fact, it was countless times stronger than a Tao an individual could comprehend. Although the peak of Greed's cultivation was only illusory his connections were extraordinary. He had a lot of acquaintances in the second step, so he knew a lot of secrets about the second step. He was able to tell at a glance the terrifying Tao contained within this finger. One finger pointed forth. It seemed like a gentle breeze without any fluctuations at all. It was just as if a mortal was gently pointing with their finger. However, this point caused Wang Lin's pupils to shrink. He felt like his origin soul was about to rush out of his body to meet that finger. Greed was the closest to it, so this feeling was over 100 times stronger for him. He backed up into the mountain and river screen without any hesitation. At this moment, the mountain and river took over the area as if space was gone. However, even so, the finger still penetrated through the mountain and river as it pressed down. Sounds of cracking came from the screen and then countless cracks appeared on it. Greed coughed out a large mouthful of blood as he quickly retreated. He continued to cough out blood. His injuries were too great. The finger from the ancient god didn't stop and pressed down on Greed. Wang Lin's eyes lit up as he stared at the mountain and river screen that had cracked but still contained its power. His eyes revealed a strange light. When he saw the finger going toward Greed, Wang Lin clenched his teeth. He left the bone with the celestial guard and charged out as if he was teleporting. His speed was extremely fast, so he arrived next to the screen in the blink of an eye. Right now Greed couldn't bother with Wang Lin stealing his treasure. He moved at full speed to escape. The ancient god finger suddenly stopped and slowly turned as if it was locking on to Wang Lin. Wang Lin's scalp tingled. Without any hesitation, He gathered all of his celestial spiritual energy in his right finger and shouted, "Stop!" His target wasn't the ancient god finger but Greed. Greed's eyes were bloodshot and his body suddenly stopped for a moment. He cursed loudly in his heart. Although he had only stopped for a moment, it attracted the attention of the ancient god finger. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Wang Lin grabbed the screen and put it into his bag of holding. Then he retreated without any hesitation. His heart was pounding hard. The danger before him hadn't passed. He moved extremely fast toward the Celestial Guard. The Celestial Guard had never stopped escaping. However, in the face of the giant Moongazer serpent and ancient god finger, its speed was obviously not enough. Greed's face was extremely pale. As the ancient god finger closed in, Greed immediately slapped his bag of holding and a shining crown appeared. It was like the crown of a mortal emperor with 5 jewels socketed in it. The powers of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth suddenly flowed from the crown. He put the crown on his head without any hesitation. The golden light from the crown was blinding, but it wrapped around Greed like water. Then a huge shadow suddenly appeared over his body. This shadow didn't have a clear appearance but wore a dragon robe. A sense of majesty suddenly surrounded the area. Greed shouted. In order to activate the Celestial Emperor crown, this old man killed 9,999 mortal emperors and infused their souls inside the crown to meet the requirements to activate it. I want to see if it can resist the finger from you, vile beast. The illusion of the ancient god finger landed on Greed. A bang that shocked the heavens echoed the area. The ancient god finger didn't change. After it pressed down on Greed, it immediately withdrew. As for Greed, his face was even more pale, and the golden light surrounding him collapsed. The souls of 9,999 emperors suddenly vanished and the crown fell from his head. The strange thing was that the crown was perfectly fine after taking a blow from the ancient god finger. A powerful force entered Greed's body like crazy. His body trembled. Then it gave off a rainbow-colored light before flying away like a meteor. Whether he was dead or alive was unknown as he disappeared among the stars. Wang Lin's eyes were filled with terror. When the ancient god finger pressed down on Greed, he didn't stop running at all and continued to escape. However, at this moment, the illusionary ancient god finger suddenly appeared behind Wang Lin. The familiar aura of an ancient god suddenly surrounded the area. One finger pressed down. The target of this finger wasn't the Celestial Guard but Wang Lin. Wang Lin almost lost his wits. This finger was too fast and it was quickly closing in. In the midst of this crisis, Wang Lin's eyes became cold and he placed his hand on the Celestial Guard. He extracted the slaughter energy from the Celestial Guard. In an instant, almost 1 million strands of slaughter energy appeared. They transformed into life seals to block the ancient god finger. The life seals all collapsed as if they were fragile pieces of paper. It didn't matter how much slaughter energy was used. All of it was powerless before the ancient god finger. Wang Lin's expression was pale, but there was no panic in his eyes. He slapped his bag of holding as he retreated with the Celestial Guard, and the second Celestial Guard appeared before him as a shield. The ancient god finger pressed down on the second Celestial Guard. The second Celestial Guard trembled and began to rapidly break down. After the second Celestial Guard shattered, the ancient god finger stopped 7 inches away from Wang Lin's body. A feeling of his body shattering surged through Wang Lin like crazy. The feeling of going through a life and death crisis made it hard for him to breathe. Wang Lin let out an angry roar and raised his head. One ray of Ling Tianho's sword energy suddenly charged out and collided with the finger. Ling Tianho's sword energy contained a certain amount of power, so it slowed the finger by a bit. However, the finger pressed down once more without hesitation, and this time it landed on Wang Lin's chest. An intense pain came from Wang Lin's chest and instantly spread across his body. At this moment, Wang Lin's body collapsed. First it was his flesh, then his bones all turned to dust and vanished without a trace. The ancient god finger destroyed Wang Lin's body, but it didn't stop there. It pressed down on Wang Lin's origin soul next. This Moongazer serpent was set on wiping him out. Just at this instant, Wang Lin suddenly felt that feeling that made his origin soul unable to leave his body after he devoured that ancient thunder dragon. It was as if there was a thin barrier blocking him. No matter how much he tried, he couldn't break through the barrier. It was as if his origin soul had lost the ability to. His origin soul was confined in his body, which made it impossible for him to use certain spells. However, at this moment when the ancient god finger closed in and destroyed his body, it also destroyed that barrier. Wang Lin's origin soul gave off intense lighting, and turned into an ancient thunder dragon that roared at the ancient god finger. As it roared, countless balls of thunder appeared and attacked the ancient god finger. Borrowing the moment the ancient god finger slowed down, Wang Lin grabbed the bag of holding that fell after his body collapsed. When his origin soul turned into a thunder dragon, he became several times faster than his body. He took the celestial guard and half the bone before quickly escaping. While he was escaping, he felt a sense of bitterness. However, just at this moment, he saw the crown left behind by greed just floating there. His heart skipped a beat as he put the crown into his bag and left without even looking back. The ancient god finger slowly dissipated. The giant Moongazer serpent looked at the distant Wang Lin and pondered. It then looked at the furnace its tentacles were holding. After hesitating a bit, it chased after Wang Lin. Wang Lin couldn't help but curse when he noticed the Moongazer serpent chasing after him. Wang Lin had to admit he was reckless this time. He didn't expect greed to appear here and excite it to the point of awakening. Otherwise, according to Wang Lin's original calculations, he wouldn't have been in such a sorry state. He had lost too much on this trip. The 7-star sword formation was destroyed, the restriction flag collapsed, one of Ling Tianho's sword energy rays was used, and even his body was destroyed, leaving only his origin soul. However, his harvest was also great. His origin soul was finally free, half of the Moongazer serpent's bone, the celestial mountain and river screen, and finally that crown. He couldn't tell if he ended up gaining or losing. He could only let out a sigh before moving even faster. The Moongazer serpent slowly approached. Every time it moved, it would cross an extremely large distance. If Wang Lin was still in his body, he would have already been caught. However, he no longer had his body, and flying with only his origin was several times faster than with his body. As he rushed away, Wang Lin's origin soul entered the star compass and escaped like crazy with half of the Moongazer serpent's bone. Wang Lin had no confidence he could escape the ancient god finger through luck once more. If the Moongazer serpent caught up, he would die for sure. After his origin soul entered the star compass, his speed reached an unimaginable degree, and reached an equilibrium with the Moongazer serpent. Although he didn't escape, he managed to keep a certain distance from the Moongazer serpent. However, this kind of flying was intensive on Wang Lin's origin soul. His origin soul was already seriously injured, and now his injuries were becoming worse and his origin soul was dimming. Wang Lin rushed across the northern domain, and arrived in the southern domain of the All-Heaven star system. Moving at full speed for an extended period of time gradually made Wang Lin's origin soul weaker, and he couldn't hold on much longer. However, the Moongazer serpent also slowed down before completely stopping at the border to the southern domain. It let out a few low muffles but didn't dare to cross over. Wang Lin was startled but then was immediately ecstatic. He sped up, and after a long time, he noticed that the Moongazer serpent was no longer chasing after him. The distance between them was getting larger and larger. Wang Lin let out a big sigh of relief and his eyes revealed trace of lingering fear. This Moongazer serpent is simply too powerful. If not for the fact it's slow, I would have already died. Compared to the one in 2C's memories, aside from their appearance, there was nothing similar between the two. How could that Moongazer serpent be so powerful? Wang Lin turned around at the northern domain and began to ponder. With how strong the Moongazer serpent is, why was it afraid of coming here? Could there be something here that it is terrified of? He couldn't understand and let out a sigh. After checking the state of his origin soul, he let out a bitter smile. Although the origin soul breaking through that barrier is a good thing, I lost my body, and I don't know how long it will take for me to form a new one. If I were to possess a body, there would be too many limitations, and if there are no good bodies, that won't be good either. After pondering for a while, Wang Lin stopped hesitating and flew forward. First, I have to find a place to go into close-door cultivation to refine this bone, and see if it can complete the heaven-defying bead. Then I'll have to work on forming a new body. Wang Lin's eyes shined as he charged toward the endless space before him. The The Moongazer serpent looked into the distance, and its huge eyes revealed signs of hesitation. After a long time, its large body began to retreat. It seemed to remember that someone had warned it not to go there. However, this memory was from too long ago and was a complete blur. However, that sense was crisis was so powerful that it affected its thought process even more. It gradually backed away and its tentacles swayed back and forth as it gave off a terrifying pressure. Along the way, many cultivators noticed the Moongazer serpent. However, they only took one look before all their hair on their bodies stood up and they fell into complete shock. They turned and ran, hating that they couldn't escape faster. The Moongazer serpent stopped somewhere between the 5 main planets of the northern domain, and its body began to slowly curl up into a sphere. The countless tentacles slowly withdrew until they all returned to its body. Bursts of fog came out from the Moongazer serpent's body and surrounded the area. The Moongazer serpent returned back to its second form and began its deep sleep. However, the position it chose this time made the hearts of all the cultivators in the northern domain tremble. This was too close to the 5 main planets. In the northern domain, there was a relatively primitive planet. The spiritual energy on this planet wasn't strong, but there were still mortals living on it. On this day, something fell from the sky. This thing was covered in a rainbow-colored light, and it landed in a plain on the northern part of the planet with a loud bang. All of the bones in Greed's body were broken, and the insides of his body had collapsed. His origin soul was heavily damaged, but he was not dead. Not only did he not die, but his eyes were filled with ecstasy. When he came to the All-Heaven star system, his body was filled with brandings. Each of these brandings contained unimaginable power and could easily kill him. However, when the ancient god finger closed in, something mysterious happened and caused all the brandings to simultaneously collapse. Only the All-Seer's branding still remained. As long as I have enough time, I'm confident I can recover someday. Greed took a deep breath, slowly sank into the ground, and disappeared from the plane. From this day forth on this ordinary planet, all of the inhabitants would smell a faint stench, but no matter how much they searched, they couldn't find the source. It seemed this stench was coming from the earth. Wang Lin was currently flying through the southern domain. He didn't go for the planets with cultivators, he set his eyes on the abandoned planets. His origin soul had a vague feeling that there was a place in the southern domain that made him feel extremely comfortable. He subconsciously flew toward that direction, and as he got closer and closer, it seemed like even his origin soul's injuries were improving. He slowly got closer. When Wang Lin saw the place that made him feel comfortable, his eyes revealed a mysterious light. Before him was an asteroid field. Countless asteroids of all sizes seemed to be held together by a mysterious force. They orbited an area and seemed to form a natural barrier. Wang Lin could feel that the location that made him feel very comfortable was within the depths of this asteroid field. He pondered for a bit and decided not to go himself. He came out from the star compass and held onto the Moongazer serpent's bone as he controlled the celestial guard to slowly enter the interior of the asteroid field. This asteroid field was extremely large. The celestial guard had flown for a long time, but it still hadn't entered the interior. However, it saw a mysterious scene. There was an abandoned planet. This planet was not very big. It was only half the size of planet Ranyun. However, there were bursts of thunder coming from the planet. It was as if the planet was covered by a net of heavenly thunder. This thunder was endless and continued to descend on the planet. This planet was nameless and was in an extremely remote location of the southern domain. It was also blocked by a dense layer of asteroids, so it was hard to discover from the outside. Wang Lin had left a sliver of divine sense on the celestial guard, so he naturally saw this planet. The comfortable feeling was getting closer and closer. However, he knew that the source of this comfortable feeling wasn't this small planet, but in the depths of this planet. But there was a mysterious force blocking his divine sense and preventing him from examining the planet. Although this was the case, this small planet still gave Wang Lin a comfortable feeling. This place is an excellent place to make a cave. Wang Lin's eyes lit up as he took the Moongazer serpent's bone and headed toward the celestial guard. Soon, the small planet appeared before him. I found this place due to the feeling of my origin soul. When I'm here, the injuries to my origin soul heal extremely fast. Wang Lin pondered as the celestial guard cleared the way toward the small planet. Let's stay here for now. After I recover and reform my body, I'll go check out the depths of this place. Wang Lin understood that after devouring the ancient thunder dragon, his origin soul had mutated and all thunder spells had no effect on him. As long as the thunder was not of a higher grade than the ancient thunder dragons, it couldn't harm him. Earlier, when his body was destroyed by the ancient god Finger, it broke the barrier that was trapping his origin soul inside his body. However, his origin soul was injured, and after that he was too busy escaping, causing the injuries to become worse. Under these circumstances, not even Wang Lin knew why his origin soul seeked this place out. However, at this moment he understood. If an ancient thunder dragon was injured, it would find an environment like this where it could recover fast. It would feel extremely comfortable here and even feel a sense of security. After his body collapsed, his origin soul was free. Right now his origin soul was like an ancient thunder dragon, which was why he was attracted to this place. After understanding karma, Wang Lin's heart was calm. When looking at the small planet filled with thunder, he couldn't help but feel a sense of familiarity, as if this was his hometown. As he continued to move forward, the sound of thunder rumbled in his heart. The dense thunder would sometimes strike Wang Lin, and this made him feel very comfortable. This feeling came from his origin soul, as if there was a hand gently massaging his soul. At this moment, Wang Lin's origin soul emitted a blue light and bursts of thunder entered his body. As he moved, a portion of his origin soul extended to the Moongazer serpent's bone and made it release a series of crackling sounds. However, the celestial guard immediately stopped. Its eyes revealed a rare sign of hesitation, as if it held extreme fear toward thunder. Wang Lin turned around and began to ponder. The celestial guard shouldn't be afraid of thunder. After all, he had used his origin energy to refine the celestial guard, so the guard contained the power of thunder. It had also fought many enemies that used thunder but never showed the hesitation it did now. Could the thunder here be different? Wang Lin's eyes narrowed as he carefully looked at the thunder around him. After a long time, his eyes revealed enlightenment. The thunder here was formed by the heavens and not by some spell. Its characteristics were extremely similar to Wang Lin's origin soul. No wonder the celestial guard is afraid. Thunder falls into two categories: acquired and innate. Acquired is all thunder formed by spells. Innate is not formed by spells but naturally formed by the heavens. With a command, the celestial guard backed away and started cultivating on a large asteroid not far away. Wang Lin turned around as he put away the star compass and carried the Moongazer bone deep into the planet. The closer he got, the more dense the thunder became, until it reached a terrifying degree. If it was anyone else, they would fear this place just like the celestial puppet. After all, the thunder here had reached a level that surpassed what one's body and origin soul could resist. However, for Wang Lin, especially for his origin soul without a body, this thunder had no effect on him. The closer he got, the more comfortable he felt. If Wang Lin still had his body, he would be limited by it. His body wouldn't have been able to reach this point, but due to current circumstances, he was able to move even faster and gradually entered this thunder planet. The planet's surface was also covered in thunder. The entire planet inside and out was filled with this dense thunder as if it was a thunder prison. Looking at the earth filled with thunder, Wang Lin's origin soul felt even more comfortable. There were no plants as no living thing could survive under these conditions. It was very rare for a place like this to exist. Due to the asteroid field surrounding this place, it was impossible to notice it. If it wasn't for Wang Lin's origin soul, he would have never found his place. Although there was no life here, there was powerful vitality coming from the planet. The amount of vitality wasn't any less than a cultivation planet filled with spiritual energy. However, there was no spiritual energy here. After all, any spiritual energy would immediately collapse under the dense thunder. The entire world was surrounded by powerful thunder. Countless bolts of thunder descended from the sky. The ground would absorb the thunderbolts and the thunderbolts would move through the ground like silver snakes. Wang Lin's eyes revealed a strange light. This place was simply too perfect for him. It will only take half the effort to cultivate the thunder origin spell. Wang Lin's origin soul landed on the ground. As if he landed in a pool of thunder, A ripple spread out from his origin soul. Even the Moongazer serpent's bone was surrounded by thunder. Wang Lin moved and the Moongazer serpent's bone landed on the ground. It was as if this planet had just gained a large mountain range. This large movement caused the planet to tremble. It was as like throwing a stone into a pond and watching ripples spreading across the water. Right now the bone was like the rock and the ripples were thunder. At this moment, a large amount of thunder rippled across the planet. The density of the thunder increased several-fold. The rumbling of the thunder continued endlessly as if it came from ancient times. Wang Lin's origin soul sat down in the lotus position. He hadn't completely absorbed the ancient thunder dragon. In his origin soul there was a thin line. It distorted to form the outline of a dragon. Both of his hands formed a seal and he placed it on his knees. Thunder appeared in Wang Lin's eyes and a suction force immediately caused the thunder all around him to gather toward him. Bursts of crackling sounds came from all directions and countless sparks flew around. Each of those sparks would cause a first-step cultivator's expression to change, because it contained the might of heavenly thunder. Wang Lin slowly closed his eyes and allowed the thunder to enter his origin soul at will. Dense thunder gathered around him and continued to increase. A giant ball of thunder slowly gathered around him. Wang Lin was inside, and bolts of thunder descended on him. The thunder cycled through his origin soul and slowly disappeared. The cycle continued, and Wang Lin completely forgot about time. He focused completely on the thunder. There was a powerful pressure here, and it was being absorbed by Wang Lin. From the outside, aside from the thunder being a bit more violent than before, there was nothing unusual about it. The celestial guard was sitting in the lotus position on an asteroid near the planet. Although it had its eyes closed and was cultivating, its divine sense was spread out. If anything were to threaten Wang Lin, it would immediately act. Loyalty was the main concern Celestial Emperor Qing Lin had when creating the celestial guards. Time slowly passed. In a flash, 10 years flashed by. Time left no trace. Even on the planet Wang Lin was on, it merely lost a bit of thunder. During these past 10 years, the celestial guard didn't move at all. It was as if that was its life, waiting for time to pass for the chance of regaining its freedom. Inside the thunder planet, a giant ball of thunder appeared where Wang Lin was. The thunder from the sky descended on the ball of thunder and was rapidly absorbed. Even the thunder descending in the distance seemed to be attracted and turned toward the ball. Wang Lin's origin soul continued to recover inside the ball of thunder. This was the best place for him to recover, and the endless thunder was like the best medicine in the world for him. Wang Lin continued to absorb the thunder, and his injuries slowly recovered. Another 10 years passed by in a flash. On this day, Wang Lin's origin soul slowly opened its eyes. His eyes contained the might of thunder. The moment his eyes opened, the ball of thunder around him exploded. It spread out like a powerful thunder spell. However, at the moment the thunder spread out, Wang Lin inhaled. All of the expanding thunder froze as if time had stopped. Then it all returned as if time was reverting and was inhaled into Wang Lin's mouth. At this moment, thunder covered his body as if he was wearing a suit of thunder armor. His hair moved without wind and emitted streams of thunder. If I wasn't here, it would have taken several times longer to recover my origin soul. Wang Lin raised his head and looked up at the sky. The most important thing right now is to recover my body. Reforming a body is something a normal cultivator can't do. This involves the ancient god tactic. Wang Lin began to ponder. His body had collapsed once before and only recovered due to the ancient god tactic. Only the original body has been cultivating the ancient god tactic. However, using only a part of it to reform my body is something I can still do. Wang Lin's eyes revealed resolve and his hand formed a seal. This was a seal from the memories of ancient god 2C. An ancient aura suddenly spread out from Wang Lin's hand and enveloped the world. The might of thunder also entered this ancient aura. Wang Lin's two hands slowly touched the earth and he spoke a few complex words. Then his eyes emitted a mysterious glow. Gather. Wang Lin said the last word. The thunder covering the earth seemed to turn into actual water. It was slow at the start, but it quickly spread out and all the thunder rushed toward Wang Lin. The thunder quickly entered through Wang Lin's two hands. However, they didn't go into the depths of his body but condensed around his palms. A numb feeling gradually came from Wang Lin's hands. This feeling only existed when one had a body. Wang Lin didn't look down but kept his eyes closed. He was as stable as a mountain. As large amounts of thunder gathered, it was as if Wang Lin wanted to absorb all the thunder on the planet. If one looked from above, they would clearly see the amount of thunder on the surface of the planet visibly decrease and gather toward Wang Lin. Bursts of dazzling thunder flashed by. Wang Lin's hand seemed to control all the thunder in the world. It was as if he only needed to flip his hand to make all the thunder bow to him. His hands gradually absorbed the incredible thunder, and it began to condense. Flickers of golden lights would appear and disappear on his hands. These sparks increased more and more as thunder was gathered. There seemed to be some mysterious connection between them, and they slowly linked together to form the bone structure of the hand. This hand bone was formed completely from golden specks, and gave off the powerful might of thunder. As time slowly passed, the thunder from the earth arrived like waves into Wang Lin. The amount of golden specks gathered at Wang Lin's hands reached a peak, and finally a pair of hand bones suddenly appeared. If an outsider saw Wang Lin now, they would gasp. This scene was simply too strong. Aside from the pair of hands, everything else was transparent. Only the pair of hand bones was completely solid. Wang Lin's absorption didn't stop. As more and more thunder was absorbed, the specks of light increased and began to extend toward his arms. His arm bones gradually condensed. Time slowly passed by, and Wang Lin was constantly immersed in absorbing the thunder. When all the thunder disappeared, a full skeleton had formed. His body slowly rose up into the air. When he was in the air, all of the thunder in the air seemed to find an opening and descended on his body like crazy. Bolts of thunder as thick as an arm continued to descend from the sky. Intersecting green and red lines continued to appear outside of Wang Lin's skeleton. They continued to appear and spread across his body. At this moment, Wang Lin's divine sense spread out and covered the entire planet. The thunder in his origin soul seemed to have become the owner of all the thunder on this planet. Suck! The divine sense turned into a spell, and with one word the planet trembled. All of the thunder on the planet was sucked out. Then a large amount of thunder appeared and rushed toward Wang Lin. This scene caused a huge thunderstorm that caused the earth to crack, and the thunder in the sky was about to collapse. Even the celestial guard outside the planet opened its eyes and looked over with glowing eyes. All of the thunder on the planet gathered on Wang Lin as his flesh and blood slowly condensed. At this moment, thunder filled Wang Lin's body, and his body was connected to the entire planet. There was also powerful vitality being absorbed along with the thunder. This vitality was a vital component to Wang Lin's new body. Time quickly passed by. Including the time it took for his origin soul to recover, 60 years had passed. It was as if this entire thunder planet had gone through its entire life cycle in the past 60 years. The thunder on the planet was no longer dense, so even the celestial guard could enter the planet. All of the thunder and most of the vitality condensed into a 30-foot-tall cocoon. On this day, the cocoon opened. A naked body ripped open a gap from inside the cocoon and slowly walked out. Rich thunder came pouring out from the gap. This thunder wasn't from the cocoon but from the body. He was Wang Lin. Wang Lin took a deep breath as he looked down at his own body and revealed a strange expression. He had spent 60 years absorbing a lot of thunder and vitality to form this body. This body contained the power of thunder, and formed a close connection with the thunder in his origin soul. With a thought, Wang Lin's origin soul left his body. After wandering around a bit, he returned to his body. A long laughter came from Wang Lin's mouth. This sound was like rumbling thunder. The rumble of the thunder echoed across the world. It was like a cry that challenged the heavens. I gained a new life. I should not waste it. Wang Lin waved his hand and his bag of holding came out from his origin soul. Then a set of white robes appeared over his body. He landed on the ground and sat down in the lotus position. His gaze fell on the mountain that looked like a crouching dragon. Wang Lin's eyes shined and he slapped his bag of holding. The 1 billion soul flag appeared in his hand. He waved his hand and countless soul fragments flew out. If the thunder around the planet still remained, these soul fragments wouldn't have been able to withstand this place at all. The large amount of soul fragments gathered to form 3 primary souls and wandered the area. After setting up the protection, Wang Lin spread out his divine sense and carefully checked the area. After determining it was safe, Wang Lin took a deep breath and pressed his right hand between his eyebrows. A ripple appeared on his forehead and a crystal bead slowly formed. Wang Lin's eyes were glowing like fire as his hand formed a seal and pointed. The heaven-defying bead immediately flew out and landed on the mountain-like Moongazer bone. Compared to the huge mountain, the heaven-defying bead was so insignificant. Wang Lin's expression was extremely cautious. This heaven-defying bead was his #1 treasure, and it came from the all-heaven star system. His divine sense was spread out, and if there were any sign of trouble, he would immediately take the necessary measures. This was why he had to wait until his body had formed before taking out the heaven-defying bead. Without his body, he couldn't use his full power. If he were to directly take out the heaven-defying bead, it would be too dangerous and unwise. The heaven-defying bead gave off a golden glow. Under this golden light, the Moongazer bone trembled slightly. The metal inside it turned into golden threads which were slowly absorbed by the heaven-defying bead. This process was extremely slow, and Wang Lin didn't know the reason why. Compared to when absorbing the water element, the closer the bead came to completion, the slower the absorption became. Wang Lin's divine sense kept sweeping the area, always on high alert. He even sent out the fourth soul to hide somewhere near the planet. Wang Lin used the fourth soul as a springboard to spread his divine sense out even further. The heaven-defying bead's absorption was very slow. After all, the Moongazer bone was simply too big. After a few days, Wang Lin split off a portion of his divine sense and took out a few magical treasures. These treasures all belonged to greed. These were Wang Lin's harvests from 60 years ago. The first treasure was that giant mountain. Although it was damaged, the celestial spiritual energy coming from it was extremely rich. What was even better was that greed's divine sense imprint had already dissipated. This was one of the reasons why Wang Lin was extremely tempted. The dissipation of greed's divine sense didn't mean he was dead. It was wiped away after 100 years of assimilation with the Moongazer bone. Wang Lin placed his right hand on the mountain and recalled when greed extracted the mountain's soul. His eyes were calm as he slightly rubbed the mountain. Wang Lin had a deep impression of extracting the souls of things with spirit, like planets, mountains, and rivers. This was something only second-step cultivators should be able to do. But Wang Lin was able to experience it personally when the scattered devil controlled his body. As his right hand rubbed the mountain, Wang Lin's hand suddenly stopped and his eyes revealed a strange light. He slowly raised his right hand. Then an ancient aura with rich celestial spiritual energy came from the rock. As Wang Lin lifted his right hand, an illusionary mist ball formed between his hand and the mountain. He slowly raised his right hand. Wang Lin's movement was extremely gentle. His gaze was like lightning as he stared at the small ball of mist in his hand. This small ball gave off a powerful aura. What shocked Wang Lin the most was that the celestial spiritual energy was perfectly contained within the ball, as if a celestial was using this spell. Although this mountain soul is much weaker than back when greed used it, it is still extremely powerful. However, the mountain soul is extremely unstable, and if I'm careless, not only will it not hurt the enemy, it might harm me instead. Wang Lin's eyes glowed. He knew that the reason for this was because the mountain wasn't complete, which caused the mountain soul to become damaged. There was also no obstruction when he tried to extract the mountain soul. It was as if Wang Lin could extract it with just a thought. This was what really shocked Wang Lin. His eyes shined as his right hand gently pressed down on the mountain and the soul returned back into the mountain. Wang Lin's right hand immediately pressed down on the earth. With a thought, he lifted his hand and the entire planet seemed to tremble. However, this was only a feeling of his divine sense. In reality, the earth didn't move an inch. The moment the ancient aura appeared, it immediately dissipated. It was as if one had thrown a wooden bucket into a well and pulled up a bucket full of water. However, on the way up, the bottom of the bucket collapsed and all the water returned to the well. The person who was pulling the bucket would naturally feeling a force. If that person was a bit careless, they could hurt themselves. Wang Lin felt like this when he failed to extract the planet's soul. The moment the ancient aura dissipated, he felt a powerful force hit his body. Sounds of popping came from his body and his face turned white. Took him a while to recover. Looking at the mountain before him, Wang Lin took a deep breath. What made this mountain valuable was that it allowed him to experience the soul extraction spell that only second-step cultivators could use. This item is very useful to me. I just don't know how greed discovered and refined it. Although greed was Wang Lin's enemy, after seeing this spell he somewhat admired greed. Ancient Thunder Dragon, Celestial Mountain, Ancient God Furnace, Mountain and River Screen, and that strange crown. There are also the unknown treasures in greed's bag of holding. He really is blessed by the heavens. Wang Lin let out a sigh. Any one of those treasures would cause the people outside to go crazy. However, what surprised Wang Lin was that no one had stolen those treasures from greed. He was completely baffled by this. He looked at the celestial mountain and his eyes revealed a hint of excitement. It should be possible to repair this, but it will require origin energy. Wang Lin put it away and then slapped his bag of holding to take out another item. This was the mountain and river screen. Wang Lin had never heard of the mountain and river painting. However, some of the famous figures of the cultivation world knew the mountain and river painting well. Among the top 10 high-grade celestial treasures of the celestial realm, the mountain and river painting was ranked 5th. Rumor had it that the mountain and river painting was unpredictable. However, what really made it powerful wasn't the mountain and river spell on the surface but the ink of the painting. Although this ink seemed black, it was really dark red as it was formed by blood. This blood was where the true power of the mountain and river painting lied. Rumor had it that the blood that drew the mountain and river painting was the blood of the heavenly Tao. However, the heavenly DOA had no form, so how could it have blood? This became an eternal mystery. Thus, this item was also named the heavenly Tao painting. What greed obtained wasn't the real mountain and river painting but a copy imprinted on a screen. As for what kind of spell could imprint the mountain and river painting onto the screen, greed racked his brains and searched many ancient records, but still wasn't able to find out how. Wang Lin's gaze fell on the screen. This screen looked very simple with nothing extraordinary about it. It was similar to those seen in the big houses of those who were not so rich. The mountain and river painting seemed slightly blurred, but if one looked for a long time it seemed extremely clear. However, right now a crack ran across from the left as if it dividing the mountain and river. It looked very uncoordinated. The divine sense imprint on this treasure had long since collapsed under the power of the ancient god finger. Wang Lin waved his right hand and left his own divine sense imprint. After pondering for a bit, he opened his mouth and sucked the screen into his origin soul. He began refining this item with the thunder from his origin soul. The final magical treasure was the crown. Wang Lin personally saw that under the power of the ancient god finger from the Moongazer serpent, not a single crack had appeared on the crown. Holding the item with his left hand, Wang Lin scanned it with his divine sense and found nothing abnormal about it. It was just like the crown of a mortal emperor, nothing unusual about it. However, the 5 beads on it caught Wang Lin's attention. Wang Lin was able to immediately tell these 5 beads contained the power of the 5 elements. These 5 elements were similar to Red Butterfly's 5 elemental spirits, only with more spirit. While staring at the crown, Wang Lin pondered for a bit before putting it on his head like greed did. At this moment, a mysterious force immediately appeared from Wang Lin's head. After making a trip through his body, it returned to the crown and remained inactive. Wang Lin's eyes revealed a strange color. He took off the crown and carefully looked at it before pondering. That power wasn't very strong. When it moved through my body, it felt like it was looking for something. When it couldn't find what it wanted, it eventually returned back into the crown. What was it looking for? 5 element bead. Searching for. Wang Lin was startled. His eyes flashed and he softly said, Pseudo 5 elemental body. Red butterfly. Wang Lin slapped his bag of holding as he pondered and a blue rose appeared in his hand. This rose was extremely delicate and tender and gave off a blue light. The moment it was taken out, the blue light spread and gave off a sense of illusion. A cold aura followed after the blue light and surrounded the area. This cold aura gave off an unspeakable pride. Only those cultivators with their own domain could feel this pride with their origin soul. A mortal only would feel their body become cold and feel like everything but the rose had disappeared for an instant. However, in Wang Lin's eyes, apart from the pride, he also saw a figure appear. This figure was extremely beautiful but also extremely proud. Looking at the blue rose, Wang Lin pondered a bit and placed it below the crown. His eyes glowed and stared at the crown. The moment the crown touched the rose, the 5 jewels shined brightly. An invisible force flowed from the crown toward the rose. The blue rose slowly dissipated before Wang Lin. It turned into specks of blue light and fused with the crown. The crown gave off bursts of blue light for a long time. The blue light gradually faded and returned back to normal. Wang Lin frowned as he picked up the crown and examined it. Shortly after, he seemed to realize something. This crown seemed to gain a hint of spirit compared to before. Wang Lin carefully examined it and could vaguely see a figure holding a sword inside. Beyond this, he couldn't find any other clues. This item was able to remain undamaged from the ancient god finger, so it obviously isn't ordinary, but how do I use it? Greed said that it took him the souls of 9,999 emperors to be able to activate this item. Wang Lin began to ponder. What do the souls of emperors have to do with the 5 elemental spirits? What is the connection? Could the owner of the crown have been an emperor with 5 elemental spirits? And that is the only way to activate it. Wang Lin shook his head and couldn't really understand it. Also, Wang Lin examined it for a long time, and aside from the flame dragon bone, he couldn't identify any other material. He was only able to identify the flame dragon bone due to the memories he had inherited from 2C. It seemed the origin of this item was from a long time ago. After pondering for a bit, Wang Lin withdrew the bone and his gaze fell on the not far away Moongazer bone. The metal element inside the Moongazer bone gradually decreased after days of being absorbed by the heaven-defying bead. Time slowly passed. Wang Lin had been vigilant this entire time, as he wouldn't allow anyone to disturb this. Although this place was remote, he still had to be cautious. 3 months of time passed by in a flash. No one came during these 3 months. At this moment, all of the metal element had disappeared from within the Moongazer bone. Wang Lin was originally worried that half the Moongazer bone would not be enough to complete the heaven-defying bead. But right now the image representing the metal element had reached completion. The metal element of the heaven-defying bead became complete before Wang Lin's eyes. The bead gave off a bright glow and turned into something resembling a crystal. An ancient aura suddenly came from the bead. The power of the 5 elements intersected above the bead, causing it to gradually rise into the air. Wang Lin's eyes revealed a strange light. He bit the tip of his finger and flicked out a drop of blood containing his divine sense imprint. The drop of blood quickly landed on the bead. The moment the blood was absorbed, Wang Lin's mind trembled. It was as if something extra had appeared in his origin soul. At the same time, a symbol containing ancient aura appeared in his mind. Wang Lin looked at the heaven-defying bead and revealed a decisive gaze. He had waited almost 1,000 years to finally complete the heaven-defying bead. But instead of being excited, he was cautious and calm. This treasure had accompanied him for a very long time, but in the end his understanding of it was too shallow. What exactly is this heaven-defying bead? Could it really have come from the ancient celestial realm like the woman said? Wang Lin's hand moved. His 2 fingers formed a brush and drew the symbol that appeared in his mind. This symbol was extremely complex, and each stroke gave off an ancient aura. Under Wang Lin's careful gaze, this symbol gradually took shape. The ancient aura became extremely dense at this moment. The ancient aura that the scattered demon gave off when it took over Wang Lin's body couldn't compare to this at all. As the ancient aura spread out, the entire planet was affected. All the vitality from the planet was gradually suppressed and cracks appeared all over it. Wang Lin took a deep breath. At the moment the symbol was completed, he hit it with his palm. The symbol then slowly floated toward the floating heaven-defying bead. A ray of violet light came from the heaven-defying bead. This violet light was so strong that Wang Lin could hardly keep his eyes open. The celestial puppet's entire body gave off the scent of decay. Its body actually began to disintegrate at a visible rate. Wang Lin was extremely shocked. With a thought, the celestial guard returned to his shadow and the decay finally stopped. However, the scent of decay still lingered. Not only the celestial guard, but the 3 primary souls were the same. If it wasn't for Wang Lin responding quickly, they would have disintegrated completely in a few breaths of time. The violet light became larger and slowly spread. It eventually covered the entire planet. It was like the planet was wearing a layer of purple. At this moment, the violet light reached its peak. The entire planet began to disintegrate as if a spell had been cast on it. This violet light didn't stop and continued to expand. Even some of the asteroids were caught in the violent light. Some of them immediately collapsed into dust. It was as if Wang Lin and the bead were the only things left. Everything else was this terrifying violet light. This strange scene caused Wang Lin's heart to shake violently. Although he had many speculations about the heaven-defying bead, he never would have thought it would change like this upon completion. The violet light stopped spreading while Wang Lin was still feeling shocked. A majority of the 5 elemental forces that had gathered dissipated at this moment. Almost all of the energy gathered over the past 1,000 years was released at once. The violet light was still dense around where the heaven-defying bead was, and a large door slowly appeared with a loud rumble. This door was too big. Wang Lin was like an insignificant ant before it. A restriction formed and covered the area that the violet light was touching. Wang Lin only took one look at the restriction and his heart trembled. There was no need to talk about studying it. No living creature could enter this restriction. It was as if the area the violet light covered was dug out from the all-heaven star system using an unimaginable spell, and was isolated from everything. Only that huge door still existed in this world. Looking at the huge door, not only did his mind tremble, he even felt a sense of fear. This kind of emotion was extremely rare for Wang Lin. Upon feeling his own fear, Wang Lin's eyes revealed a sign of struggle. His Tao didn't allow him to fear, but this fear was almost instinctive, and he simply couldn't erase it. It was as if what was before him was on a completely different level, and it was a gap that was impossible to cross. Wang Lin hadn't felt like this for a very long time. Even when facing the Moongazer serpent, he was only shocked. He didn't experience this trembling in his soul that made him feel like he couldn't even resist slightly. It was as if he was once again a mortal teenager standing below the peak of the Hung Yu sect looking up at the towering cultivation sect. He was feeling the kind of awe that came from the bottom of his heart. As Wang Lin's cultivation and experience increased, this kind of feeling gradually vanished. Even when he was facing the divine retribution in the demon spirit land, he still relied on his Tao heart to persist and resist. But at this moment, although this huge door was giving off no pressure, his mind and body were shaking. Never give in. Wang Lin's eyes were bloodshot and his body was trembling as he clenched his teeth and raised his head. He would never lower his head. Just like back at the Hung Yu sect when he was filled with perseverance when he was climbing the mountain. Even if his entire body was covered in blood, he would still struggle. At this moment, the awe coming from the soul tried to drown him like the tides, wanting Wang Lin to yield. However, Wang Lin couldn't and wouldn't, because what supported him were Wan Er and Wang Ping's souls inside the heaven-defying bead. He would never allow anyone to hurt those two souls. Heaven-defying bead, it was I who completed you. If heavens want to kill someone I care for, I'll slaughter the heavens. If you defy me, then I'll destroy you. Although Wang Lin's voice was trembling, it had an unyielding aura as he shouted each word. The unyielding Tao caused the ancient thunder dragon inside his origin soul to move through his body like crazy. Lightning and thunder also filled his body made of thunder. Thunder spread out from Wang Lin's feet and rose into the air. At this moment, Wang Lin was like a thunder celestial. He controlled the power of thunder. This thunder contained unyielding will and Wang Lin's persistent Tao. The earth collapsed, but Wang Lin's body still struggled. His eyes were bloodshot as his Tao suppressed the sense of awe coming from the depths of his soul. He stared at the huge door with indomitable eyes. The huge door that appeared in the world was covered in dense violet light. It was like something hiding inside fog. At this moment, under Wang Lin's gaze, the dense violet light formed a giant arm outside the door. It waved toward Wang Lin as if calling him. Due to Wang Lin's great eyesight, he immediately noticed that this giant arm didn't belong to an ancient god.